There's a very particular kind of exhaustion that comes from trying to be chosen. And it's subtle. It doesn't look like chasing. It doesn't look like clinging. It doesn't even look like insecurity. It looks like being the one who cares just a little bit more, the one who initiates more of the conversations, the one who makes space, the one who is thinking about what this connection could be, the one who is emotionally present while the other person is not quite there. They're not absent, they're not indifferent, they're not cold, they just aren't all in. And so you find yourself waiting, not in a dramatic way, just a quiet, ongoing hoping that at some point they'll match the level of energy you're already bringing. Let's look at what's actually happening inside that moment, not to judge it, just to understand the state that gets trained when you live there. When you're waiting to be chosen, your attention moves outward. Your emotional center shifts away from your own experience and toward the other person. You start noticing their tone more than your own feelings. You start noticing their timing more than your own needs. You start noticing how they respond instead of noticing what your body is telling you. It's not something you consciously decide, it just happens, slowly, almost imperceptibly. But your internal state changes. You go from grounded to slightly suspended, from calm to anticipatory, from present to monitoring. You don't feel unstable, you just feel like you're always leaning a little bit forward, waiting for the next moment of reassurance, waiting for the next sign, waiting for the thing that tells you, yes, this is actually happening. And that waiting becomes the emotional climate you live in. This is where most people get confused because the connection itself feels real. The conversations are good. The chemistry is there. The emotional resonance is natural. You don't have to force anything. There's something undeniable about the way you relate, and that part is real. But connection isn't the same thing as alignment. Connection is what you feel. Alignment is what both people move toward. Someone can genuinely care about you and still not choose to build something real with you. They can value who you are and still hesitate. They can enjoy the intimacy and still stay on the edge of committing to it. And this is where you start to work harder than the relationship requires. You adjust your availability. You soften your needs. You share your heart carefully. You wait longer than feels natural. Not because you're weak, not because you lack confidence, but because you believe that if you just show up clearly enough, gently enough, consistently enough, they'll eventually choose you. The emotional state being trained in those moments is longing, not belonging, not partnership, not mutuality, longing. Even if the story in your mind is hopeful, the body knows when something isn't mutual. You can feel it in your chest, a slight tightness, a slight forward pull, a sense that you're always waiting to exhale. That's not anxiety, that's your nervous system telling the truth ahead of your thoughts. When the connection is mutual, the body relaxes. When the connection is one-sided, the body braces just a little, just enough that you notice it when you get quiet. The emotional state of waiting becomes familiar, and familiarity is powerful. The nervous system tends to return to the state it knows, even when the mind intellectually understands something else. This is how patterns repeat. Not because of attachment stories, not because of childhood wounding, but because the body has learned a particular emotional set point, and it keeps going back there. Now, here's the key. When someone doesn't choose you fully, that says nothing about your worth. It doesn't mean you're too much. It doesn't mean you asked for too much. It doesn't mean your standards were unrealistic. It doesn't mean you should have been more patient. It doesn't mean you should have stayed quieter or softer. Their hesitation is not feedback about your value. Their uncertainty is not a request for you to adjust. Their inability to choose you only reveals their capacity. That's all. And capacity is not something you can inspire in someone. It doesn't appear because they finally realize your value. It doesn't grow because they see how grounded, loving, or patient you are. Capacity is something they either build internally or they don't. And that has nothing to do with you. So when someone doesn't choose you, they are giving you clarity, not rejection, clarity. If this is landing, subscribe. I share new videos every week for people who are training their inner world with structure and intention, not just ideas. Choosing what chooses you is not a mindset. It's a posture. It's a way of being where your emotional energy stays with you until someone meets you where you already are. It's a steady, quiet recognition of what is actually happening, not what you hope is happening. When someone shows up with initiative, clarity, presence, consistency, you meet that naturally, without hesitation. When someone shows up with hesitation, ambiguity, inconsistency, you don't lean in to fill the space. Not as strategy, not as withholding, just as alignment. Your emotional center stays with you. Your breath stays even. Your nervous system stays settled. Your attention stays inside your own experience. This is not detachment. It's self-respect at the level of the nervous system. The turning point isn't when you leave the relationship. It's when you stop waiting. It's when you stop trying to earn being chosen. It's when something inside you says, I'm no longer training the emotional state of longing. I'm training mutuality now. That's the moment everything shifts. Not through effort, not through self-talk, not through willpower, but because your emotional system returns to a state of internal grounding. And from that state, your choices become clear without forcing them. When you're grounded, mixed signals are no longer intriguing. They're just mixed signals. When you're grounded, inconsistency doesn't feel romantic. It feels tiring. When you're grounded, hesitation doesn't feel deep. It feels misaligned. Clarity becomes obvious when the emotional state stabilizes. So ask yourself quietly, what emotional state have I been practicing in this relationship? Not what you believe, not what you hope, just what is actually there in the body. Is it steadiness or waiting? Belonging or longing, clarity or tension? Your body knows. The work is to listen to it. If you're ready to stop waiting to be chosen and start choosing from a grounded, steady internal state, that shift happens through training. Not insight, not self-analysis, training. Training the nervous system. Training where your attention rests. Training the emotional state you return to daily. When that changes, your relationships change without effort. If you want support in that training, I've built a process for it. The link is below. And if you want weekly reflections on this exact kind of work, I share those on Instagram at Mike Wang Coaching. Thanks for being here. I'll see you in the next one.